Welcome to today's show, Successful Refugees and Immigrants Leading the Way, Part 12 of a multi-part series, The Pioneer of Modern Philanthropy, Andrew Carnegie. For various reasons throughout history, people have been forced to leave their homelands and find refuge in other countries, thus allowing them to rebuild their lives and reclaim their dignity. Others have voluntarily migrated to other nations simply for better educational or economic opportunities. There are countless stories of those overcoming many adversities and succeeding in enhancing their new surroundings with their immense skills and talents. Many have made notable contributions to their adopted countries in the fields of art, economics, education, science, sports, etc. In this series, Successful Refugees and Immigrants Leading the Way, we will profile prominent individuals who have enriched the nations to which they have arrived and contributed to the greater good of our world. Today, we will introduce another outstanding immigrant, Andrew Carnegie. He left Scotland with his family and came to America at the age of 13, became one of the wealthiest people in history, and dedicated himself to visionary philanthropic endeavors that benefited millions of people. Andrew Carnegie was born on November 25th, 1835 in Dunfermline, Scotland. The Carnegie family earned their modest living through handloom weaving like most of the local residents did at the time. As they were forced into poverty by the arrival of automated weaving machines, they decided to immigrate to the United States in 1848 for the prospect of a better life. They settled in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, but the father became disheartened when his weaving business failed. So, at the age of 13, young Andrew started to work hard to help support his family. His first job was a bobbin boy in a cotton mill for a starting salary of $1.20 per week. With a determination to succeed, this young teen grabbed the opportunity to take on more important roles and responsibilities with every new job. When he worked as a messenger for a telegraph company in Pittsburgh, he managed to memorize the city street layout as well as the names, faces, and addresses of the important people he delivered messages to. Thus, he made many connections. At the same time, he also took advantage of a local library that a benevolent well-wisher opened for working boys and developed a passion for reading that laid a good foundation for him to become a self-made man. At the age of 18, he was recruited by Thomas Scott, superintendent of the Pennsylvania Railroad, as his secretary and personal telegrapher. As this young man moved up the corporate ladder at the railroad company, he realized the enormous potential of iron and steel for the future of the American economy and decided to step into this industry. Later, with his foresight and organizational and investment skills, he adopted the most advanced and efficient mass steel production method of the era from the UK. He consolidated several other smaller steel producers and integrated the suppliers of the raw materials and thus gradually built his enormous steel empire. In 1901, Mr. Carnegie sold his business, Carnegie Steel Company, the largest steel manufacturing company in the world, to financier J.P. Morgan and retired. He received $225 million, roughly $7.5 billion in today's currency, making him the wealthiest man in the world. His total wealth during his lifetime would be equivalent to $372 billion. Even with his enormous success in business and personal wealth accumulation, Mr. Carnegie is most remembered for his good endeavors. At the age of 35, he was already determined to donate the majority of his wealth for philanthropic objectives. In his 1889 essay, The Gospel of Wealth, Mr. Carnegie advocated that the rich should live modestly and have a moral obligation to reduce wealth inequality and social stratification between the affluent and poor by giving their capital back to the community in a responsible manner.
The millionaire will be but a trustee for the poor, entrusted for a season with a part of the increased wealth of the community, but administering it for the community.
We will now pause a moment for a constructive message and then return. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to Successful Refugees and Immigrants Leading the Way, Part 12 of a multi-part series, The Pioneer of Modern Philanthropy, Andrew Carnegie on Supreme Master Television. Mr. Carnegie carried his selfless philosophy through to the end. He gave away $350 million or 90% of his wealth to various charities and foundations by the time of his death. Many contemporary wealthy entrepreneurs heeded his call to give of themselves. Renowned American oil magnate John D. Rockefeller donated $500 million in his lifetime to educational, public health, and science-based philanthropy initiatives, and prominent American industrialist Henry Ford gave away a third of his wealth to endeavors such as historical preservation projects, the construction of a hospital, the creation of a refugee home in the UK, and orphanages. Mr. Carnegie has inspired many of today's wealthiest people, including CEOs, to follow his noble path to give back to society. One of Andrew Carnegie's primary charity initiatives was the founding of free public libraries. He said, "Wealth is not to feed our egos, but to feed the hungry and to help people help themselves." He contributed $56 million to build 2,509 libraries around the world, of which 1,679 were built in the United States, with 70% in small towns. He thus helped construct the foundation of American literacy. Mr. Carnegie sponsored public libraries because he wanted anyone with the aspiration to prosper and be educated, especially women and children, to have access to books. He had enjoyed and benefited from reading in his youth and wanted others to have the same opportunity. In addition, he felt that new immigrants coming to America should have a place to learn American culture, and a public library could provide such a service. Carnegie Libraries introduced many innovations that are still typical features of modern American library designs, such as making books on shelves reachable without a ladder, and many such libraries still serve as the learning and community centers of American towns well over a century after they were built. The philanthropist also gave numerous educational grants through direct investments as well as via foundations and trusts. In 1900, he founded the Carnegie Technical Schools in Pittsburgh, which is now known as Carnegie Mellon University, one of the world's top research universities. Next, he set up the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching in 1905 to encourage and honor teachers in higher education. The foundation helped create the largest professors' pension fund, the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America, TIAA, to provide a retirement plan for academics and researchers. The Carnegie Corporation of New York, established in 1911, was the biggest charitable trust ever created up to that time and received most of Mr. Carnegie's remaining wealth of $125 million. Over the years, the organization has prioritized the advancement of science to benefit society. Carnegie grants beginning in 1916 led to the discovery of insulin to treat diabetes. It funded a report and project that eventually led to the creation of Sesame Street, the first American preschool educational television program in 1969. Recommendations from a study done by the Carnegie Commission on Higher Education were instrumental in the establishment of the federal Pell Grant. This is a U.S. government program that has provided financial aid that doesn't need to be repaid to millions of low-income American university and vocational school students since 1973. Andrew Carnegie was a firm advocate of world peace. He also founded the Peace Palace in The Hague, Netherlands, in 1903 with the objective to resolve international conflicts peacefully, and established the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in 1910 as a global network to share innovative ideas to advance global peace. In addition, he founded the construction of Carnegie Hall in New York City, USA, one of the most prestigious facilities in the world for concerts and events. Carnegie Hall has been the venue of countless important meetings and conferences for peace, including the 1917 Emergency Peace Federation's rally against U.S. participation in World War I. Furthermore, in 1904, Mr. Carnegie established the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission to recognize heroes of civilization who risked their lives to an extraordinary degree while saving or attempting to save the lives of others. Andrew Carnegie is a brilliant example of how immigrants can tremendously benefit the community and world. He was the richest man of his era and donated the bulk of his wealth for various philanthropic initiatives, many of which are still active a century after he passed away. The magnitude and scope of his virtuous endeavors have inspired generations of entrepreneurs to do the same, devoting their resources and time to objectives that greatly improve society. Right, viewers, it has been a pleasure to have you with us today for our program. May God's power of love protect you always.